Welcome back to the CSRM podcast. We're in the middle of a series on how to integrate the sports, rec, and fitness ministries of a church with other ministries of the church for the purpose of reaching those who are far from Jesus and his church, and not only reaching them, but then discipling them and bringing them into a full discipleship. With me today, I'm joined again by Tammy Forsythe, the Director of Children's Ministries at First Friends Church, and Paul Johnson, longtime sports minister, now pastor of senior adults and what else you say, visitation and pastoral care. And so, but Paul has been, in fact, he still is the interim sports director as the new person that the church is hiring is coming on here in another few weeks or so. So thanks for being with us. Thanks for doing this. We got into some good stuff in our last segment. You might want to go back and watch that we told about the specifics of how this integration actually works, with Tammy bringing in these treasure chests every week to these kids and their parents. And some of that will be fleshed out even more in future segments. But we got into some stuff, folks, in the last segment about how this needs to become part of a larger picture of the church. And Paul, you started us thinking about this to say that the disconnect of getting people from the community into the sports ministry, we've done okay with that. We could probably improve, but okay, we've got them there. Now we need to take them into the body life of the church. We need to take them from the gym into the sanctuary. And how do we get them there? And reiterate your point about what the church needs to do about building bridges.
Yeah, well, the bridge, we offer a program. I mean, you taught me everything I know about sports.
A missional program.
A missional program.
With a mission.
Right. It's in a church. So obviously we have a message to proclaim. People out in the world have a perceived need, right? Their perceived need is sports. It's not God. Okay, so
I hope you grabbed hold of that.
So we provide, in a church who does a sports ministry, we provide the answer to their perceived need, which they desire. So we don't have to beg them to come. All we got to do is offer a quality program. People are looking for quality programs for themselves as well as for their kids especially, and they'll come in numbers, great numbers. We have 4,000 participants in our leagues in a given year. So they'll come to our program from the world, and they'll come and they'll be very happy. Now the next step is, now that we have them there, we want to help them with their real need, which is Jesus. They don't know Jesus. But that's not a need in their mind. So that bridge has to be, that's a difficult bridge to build. So and you know, they'll build the bridge themselves to get to our sports program. They'll come, they'll get in their car, they'll pay the money.
They'll even pay the money
to come, and they'll do it gladly.
They'll pay to be evangelized.
Yes, they don't know it, but it's okay. They come because they know that we care about them, and we're up front telling them, hey, listen, you're here, we're a church. The reason you're here, we want to offer you a great sports program, but we also want to help you live your life to its fullest.
Right.
You know, your kids, we want to help your kids become people with a moral, spiritual, ethical foundation to live their lives, and what parent doesn't want their kids to have that?
Research backs that up, by the way.
Yes. So the parents want their kids to go to a place that they're going to be taught something that will help them in their life. So, and sports does that on its own anyway. So now we got to build the bridge from our sports program to Jesus Christ. That's the difficulty. They're not going to build that bridge as readily. People do what they have a desire to do. So most people are pretty self-centered, and they want what they want. So they'll get to our sports program, but then to get to Jesus Christ, where Jesus Christ calls us to lay down our lives, that's not inherently the nature of most people. So
now, before you go on there, what's the percentage, would you say, of the kids that are in your leagues and these programs that come to your church? And how many are from other churches, and how many are non-church?
Maybe 10%.
From your own church?
From our own church. Maybe less than that.
Wow.
So they are community. Now,
how many go to other churches?
I would say 50% of the kids, at least 50%, don't go anywhere.
Okay, all right.
That sounds about right.
So that's pretty much what we found. So we have to build the bridge to here. So they're not going to build the bridge. So what do we have to do? We have to build that bridge from our church. Well, we have staff who does it, the best they can. But
So let's talk about that. How do we do that?
In reality, the resources and the time required to actually build those bridges effectively is beyond what a sports staff can provide.
Okay.
It has to come from the overall church, the resources, the people, the financial resources to actually build that bridge effectively, so that people, once we build that bridge, there may be some who cross that bridge. If we provide the bridge for them and they see the need to cross that bridge, that's what we're trying to do. So
now you said in our last segment something that really stuck out to me, and that was that when you said Tammy was the face of our children's ministry. And so if we wanted to get people out of our children's sports leagues and clinics to come into that children's ministry on a Sunday morning, Wednesday evening, other times, it's just cold. But if they see this face, if they've got a connection with this person, it's much easier for them to do that.
by her going, she builds that bridge.
That's right.
And she's invitational, and when they come, they see her, and there's a comfort level. People are uncomfortable coming into something that is unknown or new. And so she provides, but she's only in one league.
Right.
One league once a year, and the rest of the year there's none. So there's a huge, this is just a beginning.
So one of the things that I can see as an application of this right there for those of you that are watching or listening to this is maybe you want to grab your children's minister in your church and sit down, watch this video, and then have a discussion. How can we do this better together? Or maybe we're going to go and do it with a youth pastor or a single adults pastor or the senior pastor. Would this be a good application in your mind? What do you think, Tammy? What obviously you were wide open to this.
I was wide open to it.
But why should that children's pastor that might be watching this, why should they be interested in doing this?
Because children are important to Jesus.
Wow.
And if you want them to learn about Jesus, you have to be creative in ways to do it. It's not going to happen just on Sunday morning. You have to take every opportunity the Lord presents you to be Jesus, the hands and feet. And this was an opportunity, and it's been wonderful.
And so the sports has that evangelistic go-to, get them in here arm.
Right.
And they're bringing you said that the harvest is ripe. They're bringing the harvest in, and now you just have to tap into it.
Right. And you have a captive audience. They're coming into your room for devotions. They're not going to go anywhere until you get done or they hear that little buzzer to go to the next station. And so the field is ready there for you.
Yeah. Now, Paul, you talked about other leaders, and Tammy, you talked before about, I think that there are particular invitations that are offered. What specifically are you doing in this church to bring them from there to here? And what areas would you say we're planning to do in the future? We're not currently doing, but we're hoping to do in the future. What are you currently doing? What are you thinking needs to happen to make it happen? You guys are smiling.
We have a sports Sunday. So at the end of every league,
Sports Sunday in your worship service?
in over a church on a Sunday, yes. So basically, that's the time when all the leagues, we typically have 3 seasons. We have fall, we have winter, and then we have spring, summer. So at the end of each of those seasons, we have a sports Sunday where we invite all of the participants to come on a particular Sunday, a particular service, and we have a reception for them, and we greet them, and we get people to come. So that has been effective, and other than that, we try to get.
Let's stop on that for a second. On that Sunday, what does that look like? How does that worship service change, or what is added to make it conducive for those people?
Not a whole lot changes, except we recognize their presence. And for some of the kids, we invite them up on the platform, and the participants in the service give applause and recognize them and appreciate them for being there. So I think to some extent there are some people who may come, but I think we need to do more on an ongoing basis. That's just one Sunday where they come.
Okay, but let's talk about that because here's where I think this is important. And I think this is part of your point as well, of the staff making moves. In churches, we speak Christianese. And we're used to when we stand up and when we sit down and when we clap and when we don't clap. And for this person who's secularized and they're not church people, they come into this Sunday morning and they can feel very uncomfortable. And one of the things that I want to point out to those that are listening and watching is that if you're going to do this kind of Sunday, you guys have 65 years of this where I think there's some folks that are kind of used to this, but I think even now and then we can remind them, we can't use those phrases. Are you washed in the blood? I hope I'm never. Or whatever it is
Right.
that we use, we've got to talk differently. We've got to approach differently. Maybe even do music a little differently. Am I at all on spot with that, Paul?
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think our church is that way anyway.
Yeah.
So we don't have to change a whole lot because
Right.
our services are geared towards the seeker sensitive. So.
But some churches may not be, and so that's why I
Correct.
bring the point
Yes.
up. All right. Now you were going to make another point. Do any of us remember what you were going to say?
Well,
You say you were doing other things as well.
yeah, well, we bring in our youth pastor and some of the other ones. We fail. I think the thing that we fail the most is the broad spectrum of the church. The organization is driven by leadership, and when you somehow get a vision to the senior pastor or leadership, the elder board, however your church is governed, when they see the value of tapping into this vast field that is ripe for harvest, then they will brainstorm and create ways maybe that I haven't even thought of ways to tap in and to build those bridges on a more organizational level, rather than me going to a person and inviting them to come do 1 or 2 devotions during a season.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so getting, in other words, mobilizing the people within the church to let's go and build those bridges together. And, we'll be happy to go to a community center or the homeless or whatever and build bridges to them. But the people right in our church on 6 days a week that are coming to our sports programs, we don't build bridges to them, which to me doesn't make sense, but it's just because we don't recognize.
I'm at a church consulting. Senior pastor says, help me get and win my community. We walk down the hall, the gym's filled with people. We go out, the soccer field is filled, the parking lot's filled with cars on a Saturday. And I said, how many of those cars will be here tomorrow morning? He said, none of them. We don't let them park here on Sunday. And I said, you don't let them park here on Sunday? He goes, no, we got to have it for our church people. And I said, sir, very kindly, you've already reached your community. They're here. But how are we getting them that same car back on Sunday morning? And that's what I think you're really talking to us about.
Yeah.
And I have this idea now that maybe you don't want to just sit down with your children's pastor, but that you sit down with your whole leadership team in your church and watch this video and brainstorm together how you can build these bridges. Now, you were saying also, Tammy, you do some things to invite and do. What are you doing to build that bridge from the children's ministry?
Probably not as much as I could,
Okay,
honestly.
we're not here to make you feel bad, but
No.
but you guys are helping.
I do, other than talking with them during the devotional. After the devotional, I always talk to the parents, tell them what we did, and then inviting them in at the festival day. That's about all that I do.
And some of that is going to be filled out more in the ensuing segments of this session.
Right.
That you're going to
Correct.
tell more
Correct.
about how to reach the ministry of the bleacher to those that are there and the kids and all of that.
And it is what you said earlier, just the relationship, because
Yes.
parents love to talk about their kids, and so you can connect with parents and then take it from there. You have to build a foundation,
Right.
and we're trying to get that foundation to be Jesus, but you got to start someplace. So we're going to talk to you about your kids, and then they are a little bit more open to hear things, and then they may come on a Sunday morning or something else that we're offering here at church. Vacation Bible School is a
Right.
big draw.
Yeah.
So we are trying to invite them to different things that we're doing, and hopefully then that will bring them in to realize the need that they have, which is Jesus, and to get them here on a Sunday.
In reality, Tammy is doing as a staff, she does recognize that, but organizationally, Tammy is only one person on the staff, has limited amount of time, and she's doing what she can do with the time allotted to her. What we need to do organizationally is tap people on the shoulder within our church to join with her and say, I can only do it on Monday nights, but we need people to do it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday nights. So to get people to do that, to build those bridges. That's what really we're talking about, you know,
And-
organizing our people to go this direction, to go to the harvest.
And take this one step further, and it goes back to your original point or earlier point. Taking a person that sits there on Sunday morning, if they can become a coach, if they can become a participant, if their kids or grandkids are playing in a league, and they can sit in those bleachers on a Saturday morning or Tuesday night, and they can relate to those people, so that when you have that sports Sunday, it's not just Tammy or you stand up and say, please come, we're going to have pizza afterwards. But it's that person saying, come with us, and then come to our house afterwards for lunch. Isn't that what you're kind of saying as well?
Yeah, and we've tried to do that, but because it's not the culture of our church, that's hard to get people to do that. And the only way you create that is you have to create that culture within your church, and that comes from leadership down.
I will tell you that I believe that this is Mormon research. You know, that they go door to door, they're out there, they have to spend so many years doing that evangelistic work for their church. And I commend those people for their energy and their commitment. What they found is that it takes 200 knock on the doors visits to get one person to come back to their service with them. But they found that if they ask 2 people to come to dinner at their house, 1 out of 2 comes to the church with them. I mean, what can we learn by putting our people from our pews into this, that they're already here? The mission field is on our property. And I realize that there's a whole theological, do we do missional and go off-site, or do we do attractional? And I'm saying, why don't we do it all? But we've got the attractional, they're already here, but our people aren't here. And that's what I hear you guys saying.
Mm-hmm.
This is not to condemn any church staff or any church member. That's not what I hear you guys saying.
No.
And I appreciate your guys' vulnerability. You're saying, we feel like we're doing this much. We could be doing this much. And I appreciate that. But regardless of what you're doing or not doing, we're doing these podcasts, providing these kind of thoughts for you so that you'll go back and start to make a better impact in your community for going and making disciples. In CSRM, with the OVP and OVF, we call it evangelistic disciple making, because we're called to go make disciples. We can't just go, but we're going for a purpose that they will become dedicated decisions, dedicated disciples of Jesus. Well, we're kind of coming down to the last few minutes here, and I feel like we've thrown a lot at people. But I'm going to allow you guys again to kind of speak to the end. Tammy, last words, encouragements or inspirations that you have. What do you have for people out there? Just speak to them right there.
I would say that if you are feeling a nudge to do something, then do it. Don't worry about how anybody else is doing it. Don't
Right.
compare yourself to anybody else. Don't compare yourself if you watch how I do the devotions. Do them your way.
Yeah.
Because that's when they're going to make the biggest impact, because it's going to be more genuine.
That's right.
So it is just listening to what the Lord's saying and asking you to do, and then being obedient and doing it, making a difference.
Very good. Paul, last words.
My thoughts are that sports is a tremendous tool that we use, and you can do sports in a lot of different ways. You may not have facilities. They're available in your community if you do some research and you find fields. I mean, Greg and I went out and we traveled around Stark County looking for baseball fields, and we found a few, and we built. That's when we were starting baseball, and so you do what you can. You get a team around you of people who are like-minded. Don't do it yourself, and I think that's the main thing is try to get people around you, and have a vision, and make sure that you yourself are prepared, both spiritually, that you're seeking God with all your heart first, so that you're not drawing from an empty vessel, but you're filled with the Spirit of God, and you're not doing things in your own strength, but you're really relying on God to do these things, and then just trust God and bring people along with you, and it's a great journey. It's a fun journey, and it's been since 1992 that I've been doing sports, and this is incredible. It's an incredible journey. I'm so glad that I was privileged to go on that journey.
Well, thanks to both of you, not only for this, but for your commitment of your life and what you've so faithfully done through the years. As we wrap this up, keep in mind that there was one segment previous to this that articulated a little more of the specifics that we encourage you to watch. And then what's coming up are times that Tammy sits and tells us exactly how she envisions what she does in those devotional times, those spiritual input times, what she actually does, how she interacts with people, how she comes up with a curriculum, and then also she's being videoed and how she's actually doing it. You're going to get to watch it in action. You're going to see her model it. These are all upcoming in this series. So please avail yourself of all these. Feel free to spread this around on social media so that other people will take advantage of this. But don't lose the fact that as a result of you watching this, God is calling you to maybe consider doing something a little differently, a little more what we call effectively than ever before. Our hope and our prayer is that you'll be able to go and reach all of those people. The harvest that has come to your congregation already, to help them become dedicated disciples of Jesus Christ. That's our goal. That's our hope. That's our prayer. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in future podcasts, I'm sure.